Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to puzzle chambers. So every time I enter this game again, it's usually after taking a fairly large break, but this is daunting, certainly to say the least, and that's going to be the case pretty much always here, is that there's just no getting around the fact that there is a high level of components here, and maybe the only thing we can really figure out is to just try and turn things green. But even if I turn this one thing green, that doesn't help. So we've got quite the mess, and almost certainly the solution to this is actually to maybe just do something like that. Like, I could put one here, and I suppose that has worked before pretty well. To just start by testing, let's just see how many components extra we have here if we try to fill in every single blank spot without any concern whatsoever with how it goes. There is exactly 2 extra options. So we can learn that information easily. It's kind of impossible to get away from that information. I could, therefore, put a 2 here, and then there's effectively just no way that could be a 3. Nor could this be. You can't put things over things. So I can get 2. No numbers if I do this, however. I could modify things, and that might work. Yeah. But then that is your 2 extra pieces in a nutshell. Like, every other point here has to solve itself in some way. And we've seen these numbers go extremely high, so it's not really a case of if you get to 10 it loops back around to say 0 and then is a blank spot. Could do that, but that's still not going to work perfectly. That only turns things to being green, to then open up for modification. I then would potentially have to work to something like this. Which maybe gets us to that point. So then I guess it just comes down to, can we get to a proper number? 5 plus 1 plus 6. Well, I'll be darned if somehow by just eliminating a lot of variety and taking use of this position and this position, I solved it. But that only makes me slightly more concerned for just the next puzzle, which then only makes me slightly more concerned for the next puzzle. So I've really gone over the point and jumped the shark effectively, and almost certainly that was once I had actually used just the full solution to solve it. Once you start to cheat even once it is no longer really a concern whether you purely solve the puzzles without using hints, it is just going to be a downward slope for the rest of the game. And I don't know how you'd make a puzzle game to adjust for that, other than potentially just allowing constant cheating after that point, or ending the game early in some way, which I don't know how you end the game early in some way, or present different puzzles. Clearly, if this game had either fewer puzzles or more variety in the types of puzzles, it'd be helpful. It definitely feels like we're doing a lot of numbers here. Wouldn't it make some sense to have even a basic word jumble crossword puzzle every now and then, spell something out instead of just doing numbers or shapes or something like that? Meanwhile, the story is being told in small conversations every couple of puzzles, so it's hard to really hang your focus directly on that too. Let's see, he says, so let's assume what you said is the truth, then who do you think brought us here? My best guess, the AI. The AI is getting very human-like, and maybe it didn't like getting shut down. So we gained an additional free solution, which will probably be helpful. Now, at this point, while I do appreciate the variety on the walls, I also have to admit that this feels kind of wasteful to have any variety on the walls, since it's not really leading to anything. So all we have here is negatives. So if we make that blue, and if we say made that blue, then we can fill in a lot of blank things, and then we would assume at this point that this one's going to be covered up with one of these, which just then would mean we need to make some things blue here. This might be a little different in the layout, but may not be that different at all. That one covers up that one without changing anything, and that one covers up that one without changing anything. And I solved that pretty easily, but I also could see people just not being on that wavelength and struggling with that. But who are the white mask people then? Probably recruits. Recruits? You see, most of the AI's learning was about humans, and it was learning how to manipulate them. It was able to make mini cultists, mini cults, all over the internet, probably after we left it. It needed humans for maintenance, and it started recruiting some. And somebody had to do the kidnapping. Yeah, it did very well. What? Are you proud of it? Sorry, did you maybe make a computer program that can develop itself in full humans? Oh my god, we're trapped by a psycho AI with a psycho programmer who made it. Yep. If it is if what they're speculating is true, it does, I don't know how that really makes the story that much more interesting. And where I can see potential changes here of 3 minus 3 to 1, 3 plus a bunch of things to get to a bunch of other things is a tall order. I would think the +5 probably has to be here. But but then I can't make anything blue. So that would imply that the +5 can't just be here. But I can't do anything without the +5 otherwise. So it would be expected here that everything would try to be green to get all the greens to swap, but well, let's just do what we did before. Let's, without any concern at all for placement, just do a quick visual count to see how many extra pieces would potentially be here. In this case, I think we can pretty much say that we will have no extra spots. Every single one of them needs to be in a location. So what happened here to turn this into a blank? Probably it was just playing the blank piece. Okay. The lowest numbers we have are here. And with modification, the only way we'd possibly get a 4 is if we had something like this here and something pointing this to being green. Which that doesn't seem like that's right, if I was to guess. So the more efficient assumption, I think, would be that this gets turned to 5, and then this gets turned to 5, and we don't care about the color. Meanwhile, if we want this to be a 7, it's going to need some more help, which might be a case of turning this to green. But that only gets it to a 6. It doesn't get it to a 7. Which indicates to me that this is probably not the right solution. A 3 plus 3 would only get us to 6, and so then that wouldn't work either. This gets it too high at 8. This gets it too high, so that's probably not the solution either. It would be my thought pattern, at least, that the 3 is somewhere in this grid, this 3x3 grid. The question is just how can we get the numbers high enough? If we did that, if we did that, that's still not high enough. If we pumped that up, that would get that to a 7, but that definitely isn't getting that up to a 9, even if we make it green. Still would just be 7 and 7. So the 7, 8, 9, 10 here doesn't feel right. And plus 5 only gets you to 8 and get you to 8, which would make a lot more sense here, here, and here. So how can we get all of those to be blue I just don't see a way you can make them blue. Even if we swap that to blue, that gets that to be blue, but nothing points to these two to make them blue. Which that really just implies to me that there is not really a solution. Let's ask this. Does green overwrite blue or does blue overwrite green? Blue overwrites green. Okay, so we can get to that 8. But we can't get to this 8 or this 8. Which then 3 and 3 could get us to only 7 or 6. But then we could put 1 here to get to 7. But then we have no way to get to this 7. This to a 7. That plus that would get to 10. Right, so now we're at 9. This is in the wrong place though. Would we have any way of getting this further? Three here, plus a 3 here, gets you to 6. That gets you to 8. But then that leaves a lot of questions, certainly, as far as what other things could you do. Because now neither one of those are correct. We definitely just want to place this last one, but also I mean, I'm not feeling super frustrated at the moment, but I know this is going to take a while. I definitely can recognize that this is going to be more frustration than it's probably worth. An 8 and an 8 could also be possibly achieved with this if we put the blue here. That frees back this plus 3 and this plus 2. And that gets us to 7. I would tend to assume that this spot here is going to get covered up with nonsense. Plus 3 would get you 6 in these points. So what else can we... I mean, I almost have a solution here if I just can play this 1-3 somewhere. Because everything else could be manipulated in some way. Well, I need to play these 2 3s. That would be a 6. And if I change that to like green, it's still 6. If I changed it to blue, it'd still be a 6. don't really have anything to change anything more to blue. If I maybe put this here and this here and this here, I couldn't get this 8 to a 10 at that level. If I put this here and this here, I can't get the blue to be blue in both places. If we could rotate, let me just middle mouse click and mouse wheel and right click everything just to make sure there isn't some surprise game mechanic in this game that we could have been doing all along, but they're actively not telling you about it. All we have is 3s. So we're going for a 7 here. If we did that and that, we can get to a 7. We can't really get to a 9. We can't really get to a 5. But we have managed to play all the 3s, I believe, in a good position, except for this one. This is a 6 when it should be a 4. Let's just check. And I guess the game is doing as much as it probably needs to. It did reset the free solutions, fully admitting that it knows a lot of people are not going to embrace the ideas of solving all the puzzles without using any skips. Can just get 1 3. 1 3 left. That's all we need. And we have +2. That wouldn't help anything. What if I was to do this, however? Put that there and that there. Then that gives me a +3. Then that lets me hit the 6 here. Okay. So blue there won't do anything. That there won't do anything. That there won't do anything. That there won't do anything. And that there won't do anything. So we got it. And I feel like I'm needing to pat myself on the back for persevering now at this point, because yeah, I'm ready to wrap up the game, and yet obviously the game is not ready to wrap up the game. They're giving me what looks like a very small puzzle with new puzzle pieces. Perhaps maybe things are going to be a little bit automated in some way, in that one piece solves the puzzle in the way that previous solutions would have taken multiple pieces, which I guess I could speed up the process towards the end, but we'll have to see how it goes. So she asks, but how do you explain their language? The white mask people? Yeah. If they're humans, how the hell do they sound like? I'm really surprised you can't figure that one out, Sarah. You're supposed to be some kind of engineer. Well, how was I supposed to guess it was illegal, high-tech AI that's ahead of its time? So I guess it has something to do with writing and reading on brains. Nah, I think the masks are handling this. Their voices silenced by the masks, and new different sounds are released. They're communicating with each other? They probably hear each other normally. The mask translate it back or something. This mask technology was in prototype, and it wasn't the one I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm now struggling just to read the dialogue. One more thing, glasses. What the hell was that big monster then? Illusion, duh. I mean, it does make sense, certainly, the way he's explaining it, but also it's important to point out that the longer they are talking to this intruder person, who's pretty much the intruder, the further they're getting away from just shooting him, which is what they've been tasked to do. So your default assumption here is that the pieces just need to fit into each other, and then that would just work. So let's see what happens here. There can't be an overlap. Okay. Then the question becomes, can there be an overlap in, say, this way, in which it's not touching anything else? Yes, there can be. So there are multiple solutions. And it's better to learn this stuff now before we get into the next puzzle, which I imagine, like a lot of the easy puzzles, is going to be very difficult, because it does seem like on the rare occasion we do get an easy puzzle, you then get a very difficult one right after it. And yeah, just a order of magnitude difference there, it feels like. And no dialogue this time. Okay, well, this creates this, and I suspect overlap over overlap would not be considered acceptable. So the shooty out bits indicate something to me as far as where pieces would go. It is very possible that this actually makes the game easier, because in the same way that effectively you could look at these puzzles like jigsaw puzzles with just square edges, well, now instead of having square edged pieces, which is kind of difficult if you don't have a picture to use as reference, we now are being given edges, which reduces the possibilities. And there's not even another door in this room, so there's no reason to look for another answer. And then, yes, this seems fairly obvious. It'd be interesting, certainly, if there was some kind of secret door or secret hole in the wall. This whole game has that original Zelda game vibe to it, although in fairness, seeing rooms like this definitely has more to do, feels a lot more like The Binding of Isaac, which The Binding of Isaac is heavily influenced by the original Zelda game. And certainly it's worth pointing out that Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom, the modern 3D Zelda games definitely don't have dungeon rooms that are consistently similar in their size. And in a Zelda game, or in The Binding of Isaac, you would be entering a room and then fighting a group of enemies. You wouldn't be solving puzzles. Often you would be fighting enemies to get a key to unlock a door to move on. So I can see the similarity, or where the two would work together, but it does just kind of feel odd. It definitely doesn't really feel like an escape chamber, because there's just usually a lot more creativity in escape the room games or escape chambers. Even in the real world, you're not entering one room and then solving a very similar puzzle or a very easy puzzle. Nobody could make an escape the room event with that much square footage, nor would people really appreciate walking around that much. One thing I still don't understand: why am I able not to read your thoughts, Freddy? The rest of my staff and I were immune to those kinds of abilities. I'm guessing that I'm still somewhere on the list. Now, if I had not, in the first instance, tested all of this, it might be quite a struggle to figure out how to solve the last two puzzles. But now that we figured that out, this is now creating a weird situation. It's important to point out here, though, by seeing so many different doors, it just does kind of feel like that at some point you might have a Metroidvania type ability or skill, and you'd be unlocking doors and coming back to where you started with potentially new abilities, getting new collectibles. Obviously that's not going to happen in this kind of game. I would be surprised even if you did solve all the puzzles and went full circle. Full circle in particular is just not a very appealing twist in video games. I just don't imagine anybody really cares that you went in a full circle in a facility. And perhaps there should be a little bit more playtesting on these puzzles in a way that you can't solve them multiple different ways and then be dissatisfied with that. Or you could certainly just give extra guesses for solving the puzzles a secondary way. Like, if you were intent on making a crushingly difficult puzzle game, which I could see this game becoming crushingly difficult if it just keeps on going. Maybe at the beginning of the game you have puzzles that can be solved 2 or 3 ways, and every time you solve it a second way, you get an extra guess to solve. At least then you would be rewarded in some way, even if you're just giving points out. And as silly as points are in most modern games, there still is room to just hand out points to players when they do something extra. It's so easy, it feels like, to put your eyes in a bind and kind of just glaze over everything mentally. This could be here, this could be here. Wherever it is, that cannot be there. So you've got pairs of squares effectively now, which then reduces actually the difficulty. So the puzzles are actually getting easier. You also only have 1-4, and the 1-4 definitely couldn't have been in that location. Could have been in that location. The killer on this is going to be this, though. Either we get rid of something like that, or that is considered acceptable. Yeah, that's not considered acceptable. No real surprise on that one. So here's our kicker. Which probably just means we need to move that to that one over. We don't have any upward facing receiver pieces, so we know for a fact that this is either here, 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 or here. And so it would just come down to doing something like that, and potentially just doing something like that, and that. That one. problem is the 3. 3, 2 of 4. Okay. 3, 4. Here, 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 and here. Got it. And so we finally made it to the break room, so now they have to decide who the intruder is and shoot him. Seems almost obvious that it would be the blonde-haired guy with glasses. And they did not think of any other plan or any other concept. Yes, you could potentially shoot one of the masked guys, but they always seem to come in groups of 3 at minimum. And there's nothing open here that implies any other person is really considered an outsider. Now that I know they're just humans, by the way, thanks for telling me earlier, Freddy, I'm going to seriously start kicking some butt. Save it, Giant Slayer. Waza waza. Waza 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 waza. Question mark waza waza waza. Slap waza waza. The only thing I could think that could happen here is if they pulled off the masks of these guys and then somehow forced them to team up with them. Waza waza. Waza 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 waza. Waza. What the hell's going on? They're complete idiots, that's what's going on. What kind of people do you think join these cults? Alright, you're going down. Waza 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 waza. Waza 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 waza. Let me see those moves of yours, Seth. Oh, come on now. Waza 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 waza. Leave us alone, you freaks. 12 minutes and 4 rooms before. So once again, we're just having a flashback. And now would be the point, certainly, where a flashback might lead towards a big revelation. But I don't know what the big revelation here is. If we believe everything we've been told by the blonde-haired guy, then the only real danger here is starvation and the illusion of a monster, and then these cultists. You convince the cultist to be on your side, and then everybody can just start looking for an exit, assuming there is an exit, or start looking for a way to interact with the artificial intelligence and shut down the AI. Inherently, I don't see a reason why an AI would stop testing ever, unless it was satisfied that it has enough data, or it somehow determines that it's just not going to get any more data, which maybe you could just refuse to eat food and starve to death, and then he would just try and get more samples, I guess. But that's a bad solution. So Robert, I was wondering, oh, were you? Yeah. Why do you think the purple heads are so sinful? The question is stupid. That it's doubly punishable. Oh, sorry. But I'm in a good mood. I think I'm getting on God's good side. We've been sent on an important quest, Terry. Are you sure? You did say the wrong chapter numbers and... Shut up, Terry. Sorry. So I assume these guys with the masks are seeing humans as purple heads. That would be my guess. Okay, when this interconnects, it doesn't seem like it does anything. Nor doesn't seem like it does anything there. So probably want to push this downward and then just add to it. Yeah, I'm really not sure where the right solution here would be. probably a case that this is, it's going to end up something like this. Let's just gain that first bit of information and see that all the pieces are going to be used. I guess I could probably count also if I was not being lazy. I'd assume this has to match this. So either you modify things or you accommodate things. Which, yeah. That there and that there gets you to 3. But then if I was to do that, that would bump it up to 4. Which we would need it to bump up to 5. Which there is no way of that happening. That there and that there gets that to 4, but not 5. So we are not playing in these corners. We're almost certainly not doing something there. If these are in the corners like this, though, that's not going to work either. Is it? So we need to bump something up in that direction, and there's no way to do that. Bump up here. Maybe bump up here. But that's not going to work either. That'll work. Then it would require something like this. And that won't work. Then what if I put here? Well, that matches too. It's just going to overlap on everything. I'd have to do something like that instead. And then nothing plays into this 4. So it's probably a case of the 1. So that's probably your starting point, is these two. If I put this here, and this here, and this here, and this here, I can get to a 4, I can get to a 3. I can get to a 3 in a couple different ways. I can get to a 3, and I can get to a 4. Got it. And you'd think maybe at this point in the flashback you would totally try and speed the story up, give it a little bit fewer puzzles. This is getting fairly ridiculous. Yeah. Now we have double-sided connections, which theoretically might make the whole thing easier. Theoretically. Potentially it really won't. This here, if this was going to be played, would need a -1, and we only have a +1. That's probably not right. This would need a +2, and we don't have a +2. This would need a +2, and we don't have a +2. This matches at 3. This matches at 4. So that seems correct. we could either subtract, if we're going to put something here, we could either subtract this, which would make this wrong, and this would also be wrong, or we could subtract this. If I did that, it gets that to a 3. But what if I then did that? This plus still modifies this even though the edges don't connect directly. But then this doesn't modify enough to change anything. This is a 1. This is -2 plus 2, so you end up with a 2. What if we were to... That would get me a blank. That would get me a -1. There's a possibility that that's the case, but we need kind of a blank here. We're gonna do that. Then +2. That gets us to a 5. We have no edge, so whatever we play here has to counterbalance this one. So it's either this and this, or this and this reversed. -5 plus 2 gives us -1. -5 plus 2 again gives us -1. If I put that there, that messes it up. We've hit a 6 at this point, which is way too high. So maybe we play that there. Blank, blank covers that edge. I don't think we actually are anywhere as close as it feels like we are, but it does kind of feel like there's a possibility here of a solution. We did this +2, then that's a 6, that's a 4. We did this, that's still 6, that's a 3. We do that, that's a blank, but then this is a 4. 4 minus this turns this into a 2, turns this into a 1. This turns this into a 2 and a 1. This gives us a 2 and a 3, which then gives us a 2. Alright, I almost have everything set up now. It's just, I think this one piece and this one piece. 4 to blank. There we go, got it. Terry, I want to tell you something. Yeah? Yeah. ... Just shut up and listen. Okay. Ugh. You're the worst apprentice I've ever had. And I've had 3 apprentices already, which is a very good number around here. But as the rules and guidance from the Great Book teach us, we must treat everybody equally. So Terry, yeah? I lost my train of thought. I think I was going towards some sort of praise, but I can't imagine what in the world I could compliment you for. Oh, sorry. Shut up, Terry. Obviously, these two characters are supposed to be the comedic team of the story, but yeah, I don't see a great amount of comedy being written here in the dialogue, and you just have to do that really well to have a comedic pairing. Noticeably in the movie Saw, in the Cube movies, in anything that this is kind of parodying, you don't have a tendency to have comedic bad guys. You would only see that really in the case of, say, a kids movie, something like the Ninja Turtles movies. Some of the early ones would then potentially have a Rocksteady and Bebop type character as the lovable bad guys, henchmen. In general, you don't tend to see henchmen as it is in stories nowadays anyways, that's going to be another recording. I don't want this one to end up going too long. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.